APA every year gives 2 awards, which we think are the most important ones for our organization. The first one is what we call Distinguished Service Award. This award was started, I think, about 7 years back to honor people who have dedicated their life to pancreatic causes. And most of these are not bench or clinical scientists or clinicians. By and large, they are really supporting the cause of pancreas and APA, whether it's for research or patient advocacy and helping on clinical trials and on and on. So this year is really my pleasure and honor to have Megan, who have really spearheaded almost single-handedly what we call Mission Cure. And as the name indicates, the goal of this organization is really to cure pancreatic diseases. At the risk of not violating HIPAA regulations, I think part of that is because her brother, whom I met many years back in Los Angeles I think we had a breakfast at a diner. So Eric is sadly a long-term patient with chronic pancreatitis. I think that's what encouraged, stimulated Megan to jump into this area and make her life's mission to cure pancreatitis. So it's really a pleasure to award this to Megan and to introduce her. We have two speakers who are going to introduce. First, Eric, you're going to come first, or Steve? Eric? So Eric is going to come first. Both of you can come and stand and present back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Saluja. You have supported us from the very first minute we entered this community, and we could not have done it without you. So thank you so much. So I'm going to hope to get the room quiet here because this is very personal to me. Mission Cure exists because my sister, Megan Golden, saw suffering and decided she needed to do something about it. And it's personal because it was my suffering. When we started Mission Cure about 6 years ago, my sister already had a very successful career helping people who really, really needed it most. She'll never tell you any of this, but I'm going to give you a little bit of her background. She graduated from Brown University and then NYU Law School. And from there, she was awarded a fellowship to work in the Harlem Neighborhood Defender Service, representing people in that community who generally had nobody else to fight for them. From there, she was awarded a White House Fellowship, which is pretty much the top fellowship for people who want to go into public service. From there, she joined the Vera Institute of Justice, where she spent 15 years designing and implementing programs to help immigrants, people in poverty, and other vulnerable communities. From there, she actually came that close to being a commissioner in the New York City government. But thankfully to all of us, she did not make it into politics, but she did make it to the Institute for Child Success. And that was a very interesting organization because they, with her help, pioneered a new model of financing called Pay for Success. And what that did is it took a nonprofit from only taking in donations to actually investing in specific outcomes. And that brings us to the founding of Mission Cure. I've missed a couple important items in her life. There was a time when I was 5 and she slammed my hand in the bathroom door and I cried for like an hour, but I think that's okay. I forgive you. Who knew a pancreas conference would be a tough audience? That's right. No, but to be serious, this occurred a few years into my diagnosis with chronic pancreatitis, and I was not in good shape. I had lost 25 pounds. I was often in horrific pain. I could not eat a lot, and I could not do a lot. And my sister came to visit me in Los Angeles, and we were taking a walk, and she turned to me and she said, "What are we going to do about this?" And we started talking about whether pay for success could be applied to find a cure for an orphan disease like chronic pancreatitis. I was extremely lucky at that time to be under the care of Dr. Stephen Pandol at Cedars-Sinai, and Steve was our first call. And I'll always remember Megan and I got him on the phone and we said, "This is what we're thinking of doing. Tell us why it won't work." And Steve said to us, "It can work. You must do it. And I'm here to help you." And help us he has. This was really a ridiculously audacious goal, which was to try to find a cure for chronic pancreatitis, a cure within 10 years. And it was made all the more insane by the fact that my sister had no experience in this field whatsoever. But she quit her job and decided to devote her life to that mission, to finding a cure for this horrific disease, to help me, but more importantly, to help the many, many people, including children, who are much, much worse off than I am. Dr. Pandol, you've been an amazing partner to us from the very beginning, and it is my pleasure to turn it over to Dr. Pandol to talk a little bit about what Mission Cure has been able to accomplish.
Thanks so much, Eric. Actually, I had some slides, but it doesn't look like they're coming up unless somebody's, hey, there they go. So first of all, I remember that call, and we in the field know it's a very difficult disease. And obviously we have conversations as physicians with patients who are suffering. So it's always a pleasure to find somebody who brings something different that can make a difference. And Megan certainly has. We have a few slides of our accomplishments. There was no way that we could talk about all of them, but I want to point out, I think many of you know Megan in this conference. She, as Eric said, she didn't know much about the disease, but she brought her skills and her passion. And I think most of you are interacting with her in one way or another. She goes to our conferences, she interacts with the scientists, she interacts with the patients, and she brings up solutions, and she's bringing solutions to bring people together. It's just quite amazing. The few slides I have are just to kind of demonstrate some specific examples of that. And one is here that's a quote from one of a patient, actually a mother of a patient who had chronic pancreatitis. And actually, I don't have my glasses, so I can't read it very well. But what I'll tell you is that basically this was a woman whose child was autistic and had a chronic pancreatitis. And both of the diseases together were just tearing the whole family apart. And the ability of Megan and her partner, Linda Martin, who developed Mission Cure, along with Eric, were really helpful to that family, as they have it with many other families just who need support. And many of the other things that they've done are to learn about the disease by interacting with patients and their families and getting down what the effects are of the disease on their lives, their symptoms, their lives, how it affects them altogether, and use that information actually to even go to the FDA and discuss with the FDA how some of those findings that they're getting from learning from patients into patient-reported outcomes. So anyway, the slides now show some of these things that I've been talking about. And one is immersion in the field. As I've described, she's immersed with us. I mean, she's learning as much as she can, and she's bringing people together, and she's bringing solutions from that. It has here that she surveyed patients and families to understand what the disease, how the disease was affecting their lives. And she's worked with CPDPC and come to us with Lola in the front here to have, and Tanya Palermo, who we know very well, to come up with new systems to evaluate patients with their symptoms so we can have a good inventory of what their symptoms are. So then we develop treatments, we can see outcomes. The next slide, please. And what I talk about here is really she's catalyzed the scientific community, as I've mentioned. She's out there with all of us, and she's with the patients, she's with the scientists, she's with the physicians, she's with the families to try to understand what opportunities are there are to make a difference. The next slide. Now, she gave me her checklist. So here's the checklist. She has all the genetic diseases down and what she's doing in each of the areas. And she does this with all of her projects. She has scientists that she has interacting with that can teach her about it, but also come up with solutions. So it's just one example of her organization skills and how she's putting us together. Next, please. And the other thing is she's developed Mission Cure Capital to bring in investments. I think this goes back to what Eric was talking about, to bring investments by entrepreneurs who are interested in social benefits of their investments to start to work on developing treatments. Next, please. And these are the kind of industry partnerships she's developed that are working with her. And what Megan points out to me is this is just the tip of the iceberg. And the next slide shows that the kinds of socially conscious investments in treatments is a growing field with lots of partnerships. And that's what this slide is showing. So in the last slide, just to say, Megan, what I thought about this is I say, you're planting the seeds for the field. And I took this from the idea from a quote from Warren Buffett, who said, someone sitting in the shade of a tree today is because someone else planted the tree a long time ago. And that's what you've done in the field. So thank you, Megan. And Eric has another something to say here.
Thank you, Steve. I just want to bring it back to the personal very quickly. One of the initiatives of Mission Cure was the Johns Hopkins pancreatitis pain program. And I was lucky enough to be one of the pilot patients. I also participated. I donated my my platelets to a translational medicine program. And I'm happy to report that 6 years into our mission, I have gained back a lot of the weight that I lost. My pain level is down significantly, and it has made a real tangible impact in my life. And I know it will continue to make an impact on many lives, but we have a long way to go and a journey to take together. But I will tell you, in my darkest days, I know that my big sister is out there fighting. And if you know my sister, if she's got a cause that she's after that is worthy, you should get on the bus, because we're going there. So I want to thank Dr. Pandal for everything he's done for me personally and for the organization. I want to thank everybody who's been so helpful and all that you do for the patients. And I'm very honored to present the Distinguished Service Award to my sister and hero, Megan Golden.
Before Dr. Habitson Awards, I also would like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Golden, father of both Eric and Megan. Please stand up so we can. Thank you.
Megan, congratulations. I will read it says here, the APA Distinguished Service Award for Megan Golden for your contribution to the field of pancreatology and your service to the association, American Pancreatic Association Annual Meeting, November 2022.
Thank you so much. I am really, truly honored. This award really means a lot to me. I want to start by thanking my father, Michael Golden, who you just met. He's here from Virginia. And my mother, Vicki Golden, who unfortunately is not with us anymore, but they both supported me in an unwavering way throughout my life. So shortly after Eric and I had the idea for Mission Cure, and Dr. Pandal encouraged us, I showed up at an APA meeting. I think it was in Boston. And I barely knew at that point where the pancreas was. But Steve arranged for me and Eric to have lunch with Chris Forsmark, who's a giant in the field, and Jose Serrano, a senior NIH official. And they brainstormed with us and were really encouraging. And then after that, we had lunch with Aida Heptasian and Minote Apte and Richard Waldron. And we brainstormed there, and they gave us some great ideas about how to expedite preclinical testing. So I learned enough at that one conference about the pancreas to know that you're just not supposed to mess with it. So I was soon joined by Linda Martin, who Steve mentioned, the mother of an adult daughter with chronic pancreatitis. And we were full speed ahead on launching Mission Cure. So the next year, I plan to go to the APA meeting to get input on how to create a plan to develop effective therapies for chronic and recurrent acute pancreatitis within 10 years. And we quickly, Dana Anderson from NIH and the National Pancreas Foundation decided that they would co-host this meeting with me. And Dr. Saluja not only attended, but he also provided a room and lunch for us. And I came to that meeting with a list of drug repurposing candidates that I had scraped from the literature, in particular, a review article by Dr. Pramod Garg, who I think is also here. And Dr. Garg took the time to go through the list with me and improve it. So, well, we didn't actually cure pancreatitis at that first meeting, but it was the beginning of what we call our cure strategy. And after that, since then, Dr. Wickham educated us and our patient community about genetics, and many others have offered their feedback and advice, including Drs. Bellin and Hussein and Abu Haja and Uch and Gorlick and Conwell and Yadav, so many people here. And then there was Steve Pandal. Whenever I email with him with a question, which is actually pretty frequently, he responds within minutes. And he's always enthusiastic about whatever crazy idea we have dreamed up. And he's been really a great willing partner on N of 1 trials, which we're going to do, and they're really cool, and many other things. So the pancreatitis patient community is really lucky to have so many smart, committed people who care about patients and want to make a difference. But we need to do more, and we need to do it faster. So I started this for my brother, but there are hundreds of thousands and globally millions of people who are suffering. And I just want to give the example of Charlotte. It's on the back of our brochure, which is out by the registration table, this little girl. Her mother, Christine, and her aunt, Holly, both have hereditary pancreatitis, and her grandfather died of pancreatic cancer. And she had her first pancreatitis attack about a year ago at age 7. And the pediatricians will appreciate this. She was curled up in a ball in pain, and her parents took her to the emergency room, and they said to the parents, "You must have given your child alcohol." And since then, Charlotte has had, I think, 4 more acute attacks and missed quite a bit of school. And she's really scared that she's going to have another one, but she really hopes she won't. She just was talking about this at our virtual gala a few weeks ago. So what can be done to prevent this disease from upending Charlotte's life? Nothing yet. So for Charlotte and for Eric, here are my asks of you. Number 1, make sure that you and your colleagues investigate other potential causes of pancreatitis besides alcohol. Some patients do have the very high level of alcohol consumption that gives them a 5% risk of chronic pancreatitis, but most providers believe that alcohol is the main etiology for chronic pancreatitis, and it's not backed up scientifically, and it's harming patients. We have a 1-pager that is at the registration table on the science and what you can do about it, and I hope you'll pick that up. Second, whether you're a senior investigator or a medical student, please come to us with your ideas for therapeutic approaches. I saw some really good ones actually at the poster session earlier, including from some medical students. And our cure strategy is to take multiple shots on goal. So we may be able to help you advance something, and at a minimum, we will be tracking and pushing forward all the possible approaches until we achieve our mission. 3, work with us as true partners to implement clinical trials. So in addition to recruiting patients, we can help make sure your trial designs and your data collection instruments are more patient-centered. And then finally, forgive me and my colleagues, like Lola, if we pester you about going faster. I think everybody here knows how much patients are suffering, and you want to change that as much as we do. And you have the ideas and the knowledge to do this. So let's do it. Thank you so much for the work you do and for this honor.